الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has really blessed us today, and I congratulate all of you for being allowed to be in the masjid in one of the most blessed times of the entire day. There are people who wanted to pray Fajr Salah, but they never woke up. And then there are other people who don't even, the thought never crossed their mind when they went to sleep late at night. And so to be here, to sit here, to pray Salatul Fajr in Jama'ah, to get that reward of worshipping half the night, it is a great blessing, and it's something that if you find yourself doing it, you should really say Alhamdulillah. You should thank Allah for that blessing. If I talked about drug addiction, what comes to your mind? For most people, they think of street drugs, crack, cocaine, meth. In their mind, they see a person who's on the streets, injecting in the alleyway. It is a serious thing. Drug addiction is a very serious problem that's relevant today. It takes a person, a functioning, productive adult, has a job, is married, has kids, and makes that person, in a very short period of time, lose their job, get divorced, or lose their family, and end up on the streets homeless. And you might be thinking to yourself, how is that possible? How does a person go from an established, successful person to end up on the streets? And those involved in drug addiction centers or involved in this, they understand it's a very, very serious, dangerous problem that's easy to fall into and easy to progress. It's a poison that your own body asks you, makes you, forces you to get. What I want to accomplish today is understand this idea that that issue and problem is there, but we ourselves, and probably I would guess to say a majority of the people in this room, have a very similar addiction. And nowadays they call it digital drugs. Digital drugs. Never in human history have we ever faced a situation and problem like what's in my hand today. In human history, having access to the internet, having technology that facilitates that access. You know, a person who's addicted to street drugs, when they get to the point where they're at the very bottom, everything is ruined, and they seek help. They get part of a program. If they end up wanting drugs again, there's a process. They have to physically go and find a dealer or find someone. They have to give them the money and get the drugs. And some argue and say digital drugs, in some aspects, is actually more dangerous because it's always available to everyone. And it's common. And we, as we say as Muslims, we understand the Quran has guidance for every aspect of our lives. And so today's focus is going to be on a short surah, a surah that many of us know about, many of us have heard and memorized, but to take some lessons from that surah. And number two, hopefully we have some time for question and answer, to start the process. Start the discussion of okay, what to do next. Practical action items that we as a community push each other. This cell phone, this internet, the computer that we have, the TV that we have. Now data is coming out. Obviously we know it's bad for us. We know it's dangerous, but actual data and research is coming out on how it's negatively impacted people's lives. It's pushed them to have a sedentary lifestyle, meaning they're less active, leading to more cardiovascular issues, leading to obesity. It affects people's sleep. It affects their focus. It affects their mental health. They found links to those that are overexposed to stimulus, overexposed to dopamine and desensitization, where they are more likely to have depression and anxiety. We know that technology has shown to decrease productivity, and to decrease focus, and to decrease performance at work, leading to either, if it doesn't cause you to lose your job, it prevents you from getting a promotion. We know this digital drug impacts our relationships. It impacts our marriages. It impacts our children. You don't realize it, but kids see us on our phones. Kids see us constantly turning to it over and over again. You know, if you ask a typical person, hey, how much time do you spend on your phone? Most people say, oh, I'm not checking my mail. I'll spend a few minutes here and there. Maybe I would say 30 minutes max. But if you check your phones right now and go to settings and go to screen time, on average, an adult spends about 11 hours on their phone. And we'll discuss in the surah, we're going to discuss, and there's lessons in there, why that is, how does that something like that happen? The entire Quran is blessed, and it's something that we should learn. We should, you know, if you can spend the time, you should. But you're not required to become a hafiz. If you can, it's amazing. You're not required to go through the entire Quran page by page. If you can, that's amazing. But there are some surahs and some ayah that everyone should be familiar with. Like Surah Al-Fatiha is a surah that all of us should have spent at least taken the course, read a book, spent the weekend. Like, you know what, Surah Al-Fatiha, even though I may not know how to speak Arabic, I'm going to go through it inside and out. Inside and out, knowing every single lesson of Surah Al-Fatiha. Ayatul Kursi, the greatest ayah of the Quran. We should know it inside and out. Spend the course or weekend. The last three quls, Qul Allahu Ahad, Qul A'udhu Bi-Falaq, Qul A'udhu Bin-Nas, Surah Al-Mulk, Surah Al-Kahf. These are surahs that it doesn't matter where you are in your life, it doesn't matter if you're a scholar, it doesn't matter if you're a working person, you're busy. These are surahs that every single day, every single week you have an interaction with them. And one of those surahs is Surah Asr. Surah Asr. 3 ayat. And it's in actuality one big phrase, one sentence. This one surah, Imam Shafi'i said, that if it was the only surah revealed to the people, it would be sufficient. It would be enough. Tabarani rahimahullah said that when the companions used to meet each other, before they left, they would recite Surah Asr. As if to say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to see, we don't know if we're going to see each other again. What is, out of all the possible things I can remind you with, I can bring up, that I can recite, they chose Surah Al-Asr. Because Surah Al-Asr, in it, scholars tell us, is like an index of the Quran. The entire Quran, the concepts and subjects, are represented through the concepts of Surah Al-Asr. And we should make it a habit. Amongst our family members, when you get together, amongst our friends, when you go out to eat, somebody, one person should be like, okay, well, 1 second guys, before we leave, let's see Surah Asr. And in the beginning, some of you might say, well, no, why are you doing that? We're not in the masjid, we're not in the Quran class. It's okay, it's a little weird, it's a little awkward. That's what we need to change. We need to normalize it. Every single gathering, there needs to be, number one, some mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something. And there needs to be some degree of salam on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why? Because just that little act, it takes a few seconds. It helps you on the day of judgment, that gathering not be a reason for you to get help, be a cause of sin. Right? Every single gathering, everything we say, everything we do is either going to help us on the day of judgment, get closer to Jannah and the pleasure of Allah, or it's going to hurt us. It's going to be something that drags us down. And when you look at Surah Asr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time. When you take an oath, one of the functions is it shows the importance and seriousness. And one of the implications is that the person listening won't take it seriously. Most people won't take it seriously. You know, after Jummah, sometimes the brother gets up to make an announcement. What are most people doing? They're getting up, they're leaving, they're rushing out. And the brother has to be like, brother, I know, but this is very serious. Please, give me 1 or 2 minutes. Or a person yells, this is very, very significant, please, makes a big deal. Then someone sits down and says, okay. So Surah Asr, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by something, it's an indication that what's about to be said, most human beings may not pay attention. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us in a hadith that there's angels that come in the morning and the evening. They take shifts. Our deeds, right now, after Fajr, angels took our deeds. They were with us the entire night. And they took our deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a new angel came down who's going to be with us for the rest of the day. And then when it comes to Asr time, the angels are going to switch again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not just, scholars tell us, swears by time, but swears by the actual time in Salah Asr. Where there's a moment where that both angels are together. The morning shift angel and the evening shift angel. And if you focus on Salat al-Fajr and Salat al-Asr, the angel will go up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, how did you leave my slave? And the angel will say, Ya Allah, I left that person, he was worshipping you. And then, when I went to him, he was worshipping you, and then when I left him, he was worshipping you. That's one of the reasons why during the week, the shifts of the week of the angels is Mondays and Thursdays, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to fast Mondays and Thursdays, so that on the daily report, Fajr and Asr, your book of deeds are going up and down, that you're worshipping Allah. On your weekly report, it's going up and down as if in the state of you fasting and remembering Allah. Another emphasis of Asr is, imagine at Fajr time in the morning, I told you a task. I want you to complete this task today. You have the entire day to complete this task. You're like, okay, great, I'm going to plan it out. But what if at the end of the day, at Asr time, when it's, the sun's beginning to set, I say to you, hey, by the way, I need you to get this done. Your supervisor, your boss, somebody says, this is urgent, you need to get it done right away. Before the sun sets, before Maghrib time. Now it creates a sense of urgency. If you're in school, you can kind of slack off the entire year. Maybe not go to class, maybe not do your homework assignments. But when it comes to the final exam, you can't miss that day. You can't come in late, you can't fall asleep. If you're at work, you can be a little unproductive, you can kind of slack off. But when your immediate supervisor, the vice president is visiting and having a meeting with you, that's when you really need to focus. So if you look at Surah Asr, look at the beginning. If, in a hadith, Rasulullah tells us that between me and the Day of Judgment is like this, and he held up his two fingers, very close. And in essence, if you took the entire humanity of mankind, the history of mankind, and you made it one day, it's as if you're in the time of Asr and Maghrib. It's towards the end of the day. The day is ending and time is running out. One example is given like ice. Ice cubes, if you leave it on the table, or you hold on to it, what's going to happen? It's going to melt. It's going to leave a mess. That same ice that you put into a drink, into water, it's still going to melt, but you'll benefit from that ice. It's something that is going to come to you and you're going to get something out of it. So the word asr, one of the ways described, is not just time is being lost, but time is dripping away. It's slipping away little by little. So for example, when it comes to screen time on your phone, it's just a few minutes here and there. But those minutes, they turn into hours. And those hours, if you add them up, turn into days. If you look at your monthly report, it will tell you, this month, you spent about 9 to 11 days on your phone. And those days turn into years. 10, 20, 30, 40 years goes by. Productively, collectively, you've lost 10 to 15 years of your life just scrolling. Just scrolling. And it's not just that you wasted time. All those behaviors are linked to addictions. You're more likely to be addicted to other issues and problems. You're more likely to go down this path of laziness, of distractedness. This whole concept of being, one of the tricks of shaitan is he gets you distracted, confused, busy, to forget your real purpose. One experiment they did with frogs, you've probably heard of a psychology experiment, is they put a frog in a pot of water and they began to increase the temperature. 2 pots, 2 frogs. One pot, they increased the temperature very quickly. All of a sudden it became very hot, the frog jumped out. And in the other scenario, they increased the temperature very slowly. And they found that the one that they increased slowly was so subtle that the frog didn't notice it and the frog ended up dying. Why? Because it was subtle. It was in small amounts. So this concept of over the lifespan, it's killing us. It's ruining our relationships and impacting or the most relationship, and that is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We sometimes complain about our joints are hurting, our hair is falling out, our hair is turning gray, we're getting wrinkles, our eyesight is getting worse. And somebody might think, why is this? Is it a flaw in design? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it that way. It's a mechanism to remind you that you're on your way out. You weren't here to be permanent. So it might be an annoyance, it might be a problem. Some people don't like the fact that it's easier for them to gain weight. It's harder to lose weight when you get older. Your metabolism shifts. But there's hikmah and wisdom in that. Kids, when they're growing up, they're always looking up. They're reaching up. But when you get older, you start to bend lower and lower. As if your body starts bending. A baby sleeps all day pretty much. But when you get older, it's harder to sleep. When you get older, your sleep cycles are all over the place. As if to tell you that, it makes it easier for you to qiyam. It's like a reminder to start praying tahajjud. Because it's time to meet your Lord. In the Surah Asr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time, Inna al-insana lafi khusr, most definitely, without a doubt, human being, lafi khusr, is drowning in loss. Is drowning in loss. So this surah is not about how to be successful. This surah is how not to be a failure. If you were in a class and the teacher was talking about the semester, the conversation is not how do you get an A in this class. The conversation is how do you not get an F? How do you not fail? And that answer of not failing, because all of us by default are failing, you have to do 4 things. These 4 things have to be our focus. These 4 things have to shape our lives. These 4 things on a daily basis, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing it or are we not doing it? What are those 4 things? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, to believe, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, to do good deeds, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, to advise each other with truth, the haqq, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, to advise each other to do sabr and patience. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ, verily the one is in loss. The criteria of failure. All of us have criteria. So a person has a good job, a big house, a big family. They're successful. That's our dunya definition of criteria of success. Sometimes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would tell the Sahaba, that person over there, that person is the person of Jannah. And they would be kind of like, what? Like, this person, in their minds, they're thinking, this person, they don't see anything special about this person. This person doesn't give talks or hasn't done something amazing. But that is our criteria. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His own criteria. And a person spends their entire life, thinking about how do I achieve success. A person might be a millionaire, has everything paid off, financial freedom, success, great credit, everything. And a person might be on the street. Or somebody low income, simple car. But that other person is a person of Jannah, is considered success, and the other person is a person of failure. If you look at the surah before Surah Asr, right, because the surahs before and after have an impact. Al-Haakum al-Takathur, it has deluded you. At-Takathur comes from the word kathra. Kathir means a lot, plentifulness. At-Takathur, one of the first meanings is the desire to have a lot has deluded you and distracted you. My car is leased, I need to buy a car. I have an apartment, I need to buy a house. I have one business, I need to get another business. It's distracted you, this idea of, I need more. Another meaning of takathur, scholars explain, is that the sense of competing with one another, of getting more than the other person. You could be sitting in your office in your cubicle and you notice that guy has a better chair. Well, how come he has a nicer mouse, or his office is by the window and I don't? Or there could even be as petty as 2 janitors, and one janitor's mop is shinier and the person's getting upset. Somebody else had a big wedding, we need to have a bigger wedding. They had it in this hall, we need to have a bigger hall. It's this concept of I need to do better. Even kids, that person got 3 stars or stickers, why didn't he get a sticker? I didn't get a sticker. It's human nature, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses this. If you're at work and somebody that got promoted, it upsets that person. Why is that person getting paid more than me? The company didn't say, hey, by the way, we're giving more money to this employee, so we're going to decrease your salary to make up for it. You're still getting the same paycheck. Everything is exactly the same. And if you didn't find out about his promotion, it wouldn't even impact you, but now you know, and it's bothering you. The guy next to me is getting paid more than me. It is in this nature of us wanting to compete. Another indication that takathur is taking pride in what you have. So it's not about me having it, it's about me making sure people have it. So you could be having a conversation with someone, and you just feel the need to say, hey, by the way, I just got a new car. Or you have the need to say, hey, I went to this university. You know, this like, I want to make sure you understand. So these are things that are distracting us. You know, if you're at work, and the time for salah comes, what's the idea? I'm so busy with work, and now salah got in the middle. It got in the way. Or you're at school, and you're studying for an exam, and then the salah time comes, maghrib comes, oh, salah came. This surah is telling us it's the other way around. That your main purpose and objective for the day is the salah, and your work is getting in the middle. Your main purpose for the whole day and why you're here is the salah, and your school is getting in the middle. So that's the main purpose, and everything else is a distraction taking you away from that. In the Quran, Allah SWT tells us, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ, that this life is just a play, a delusion. You know, sometimes kids, they have, in their school, they have a play. They dress up as characters, they wear a costume, and they have a play. At the end of the play, they take off the costume. So in the play, a kid might be a king, might be a soldier, and then when the play is over, they take off the costume, and then they are who they really are. In this life, we might have someone who takes on the role of a successful businessman, takes on the role of a successful entrepreneur. But on the Day of Judgment, that success, that costume comes off, and their reality is seen. They thought they were successful in this life, but in reality, they were unsuccessful. Or a person, may Allah protect us, will come on the Day of Judgment. You know, there's an ayah in Surah Al-Kahf, قُلْ أَوْنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَكْثَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا, where those, shall I inform you, those who are the worst of all losers, those whose efforts were wasted in this worldly life. They thought they were doing great things in this life. They thought they were progressing and moving forward. But on the Day of Judgment, they realized all of it was a waste. A person will come thinking that they were a Muslim, a believer, and all of a sudden the wall will come down and separate them from the believers. And they'll say, wait, what's going on? I was a Muslim, I believed, what's going on? Like, why am I not with that group? And that person will be told that it was just said, you just said it with words. It was all superficial. You're just Muslim by name. Some people, the kalima just sticks, it's rituals. Ramadan comes, they fast. They see people praying, they join. Or not even join. It's just kind of a cultural thing. But this surah is telling us, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those who believe. Belief is of two things. Belief is of the mind and of the heart. Which is, when it comes to the deception, there's a beautiful dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we should all memorize. Allahumma arina haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah. Oh Allah, show us the truth as the truth and give us the ability to follow it. Many of us are distracted and we see deception, we see the world how it is. Oh Allah, show us the truth and the ability to follow it. وَأَرِنَا الْبَاطِلَ بَاطِلًا وَرْزُقْنَا اجْتِنَابَهُ. Oh Allah, give us the ability to see false as false and to enable us to stay away from it. And so this idea of ghafla, of being distracted. If you look at our entire timeline, we have 5 main phases. Before the creation of the earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a ruh. From Adam alayhi salam we came out. In Surah Al-A'raf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we were asked, Alastu bi rabbikum. All of us were in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked, am I not your Lord? And we said, Bala shahidna. Of course, Ya Allah, we testify you are our Rabb. Millions of years later, the angels took our ruh and put us into the womb of our mothers. Our ruh came from the heavens into the womb. And then we went to the next phase, maybe 9 months roughly. Then we went to the next phase, we were born. Some live a year, some live 100 years. But the next third phase of the life on this earth. Then the next phase, when you die, you go into the grave. Then the next phase is the Day of Judgment. And then the hereafter. You go from 9 months in the womb to maybe 100 years. And then the next life, the hereafter. In one hadith, Rasulullah tells us that it could, or in the ayah of the Quran, that it could be, it's as if 50,000 years. And then comes eternity. Now I want you to ask, if I went to a baby in the womb, and I told the baby inside the mother's womb, listen, there's a whole world outside this womb. And the baby will say, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Like, my entire world is right here. What you're saying doesn't make sense. Don't bother me, let me eat and sleep. Right? And then, similarly, the messengers came to us and said, listen, there's a whole world after this world. And what do most people say? Oh yeah, like, that, maybe I believe, that doesn't make sense. Or if it makes sense, I'll look at it later. What is 9 months what is the womb of your mother compared to this dunya? Huge difference. That is the comparison of this dunya and the akhirah. Huge difference, and it's coming, it's a matter of time. And out of this entire phase, from the heavens to your mother's womb, to on this earth, to the grave, to the akhirah, this entire timeline of your existence, the smallest bit is your time on this earth. The 9 months in your mother's womb and the being born. The smallest little part of your entire existence. And this small part impacts the rest of eternity. So the surah is telling you that the time is very limited. You're running out of time. And this small little amount of time is so significant, so important that it impacts everything else. Alladhina, illa alladhina amanu, those who believe. Do you know who else believed? Shaitan believed. Without a doubt, Shaitan believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرُونَ, that Allah describes Shaitan as a disbeliever. And this belief is not a belief of the mind. It's a belief of the heart. Iblis believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he did not submit to him. It's a matter of the heart. Abu Jahl and Abu Sufyan, before he became Muslim, they would bump into each other middle of the night to listen to the Quran of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the dark. So they would go in secret to listen to the Quran. And one day they bumped into each other and said, hey, what are you doing here? Okay, let's not tell anybody. Let's not do this again. And then it happened again. They bumped into each other again. And then a second time, third time. Then they said, you know what? We can't let anybody know. Okay? And later on, when Abu Sufyan became Muslim, he was telling us that this conversation he would have with Abu Jahl, that, you know, that he would say, listen, of course he's the messenger. He acknowledged it. He knew he was the messenger. Right? But he said that if we acknowledge this, then what's going to happen? That Banu Hashim is going to be on top. This tribe is going to be number one, and we're going to be number two. We're going to be behind. So that iman was iman, acknowledgement of the mind, but this iman is talking about acknowledgement of the heart, where you submit to it. You know that you should pray, but you actually pray. You know you shouldn't sin, but you hold yourself back from sinning. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, aminu billahi wa rasulihi. Those of you who believe, believe. Now you might be thinking, wait, what? Usually you might be thinking, like, imagine someone sitting down and you say, oh, hey, if you're sitting down, I want you to stand up. But in this situation, you might be thinking, oh, those of you who disbelieve, you should believe. But in this saying, oh, you believe, you should believe. And scholars tell us that this commandment is those of you who claim to believe, assume to believe, you need to bring that belief into your hearts. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And we'll try to wrap up, and the time is doing good deeds. So belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing good deeds, being combined. The word for here of good deeds is sulh, meaning reconciliation, something that has gone bad, something that you fix, something that makes you better, fixes yourself. Now, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Not only do you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from your heart and your mind, not only do you do consistent actions. It's not like there's a long list of things. Spend your entire day what you want to do. A few minutes of the day dedicated to reading the salah and focusing. Spend your money wherever you want, just not on these haram things. Eat whatever you want, just not these few haram things. Don't eat pork, drink alcohol. It's a handful of things. But one of the lessons that we learn is that if you want to, one of the aspects is just focus on the day. Focus on your day. Have a routine. That in the morning, when you wake up, and in the evening before you go to sleep. You do this no matter what. It's a Monday through Friday, it's a weekday, weekend, it's a crazy day at work, it's a relaxed day, you're sick, you're tired. There are some small things you do every single day. You begin your day that way and you end your day that way. There are some adhkar that you recite every single day. Every single day you have a routine that doesn't change. And what ends up happening is those days turn into months, turn into years, and you end up, those habits, representing a pillar in your life. Representing something that doesn't change. You know, Rasulullah tells us that when a person dies, 3 things go to their grave. Your family goes to the grave, your wealth goes to the grave, and your deeds go to the grave. When the janazah is done, you're in the grave, everybody leaves. Your family leaves. As much as they love you, they leave. You're alone. Your wealth is given right away. Immediately, every single penny in your bank account is gone to somebody. And if you don't have a proper will, it went to the state. But the only thing that stays is your deeds. That's it. 100 years ago, if you look at today's date, 1923, you didn't exist. Nobody knew who you were. And 100 years from now, 2123, you're not going to be here. You're not going to exist. And most likely no one's going to remember you. Maybe your kids. Maybe. Once in a while they'll remember you when they see a photo. So what changed? Nothing changed. The world is still going on. It was going on before you came, and it's continuing to go on now. The only thing that changes now, you're in the grave. And the only thing that's with you is your deeds. So it's something that, you know, another narration, Rasulullah tells us that on the day of judgment, your deeds are going to manifest in your grave as a person. Now I want you to think as an example, imagine you have, your deeds are like, it's like your kids that you're raising. Your Quran, your dhikr, your dua, your sadaqah, your charity are kids that you're raising, you're taking care of them, you're looking after them, you're giving them time, you're giving them attention. And then in the afterlife, you're going to be able to meet those kids. You're going to be able to meet them in person. So the question is, how are we taking care of it? Do we have something? Do we have it written down that no matter what happens, I'm going to do this every single day? The adhkar after the salah, the adhkar of the morning and evening, reading at least 5 minutes of Quran, 1 ayah, or you know what, every single weekend I'm going to focus on 1 surah that I'm going to focus on moving forward. And I'll end with وَعَمِلُ الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. So the first part is believing in good deeds. That's you and your relationship with Allah. The second part is وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ is your relationship with people. It's about this is la ilaha illallah. You can't just say, you know what, I'm going to read my Quran, read my salah, be a great person, I'm going to go home. In this surah, it necessitates you're connected. Your success, if you only did that, you wouldn't be successful. You'd still be a failure. Allah connects you not failing with your work and connection with the people around you. Your family, your friends. Are you motivating them, pushing them, encouraging them to do better? Hey, listen, we haven't gone to the masjid, let's go together for Isha Salah. Or hey, look, we haven't fasted, let's do iftar at my house. Let's all as a group fast on this day. Hey, listen, do you have a Quran teacher? I just saw a Quran teacher, it's been really great, you should do it as well. They advise and push each other. And they say the truth, haqq. You know, if somebody in your family is abusing someone, if someone is in coworkers is cheating, if someone you know is doing something wrong, a friend, a bad friend is someone that says, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want them to get upset. That's not a true friend. A true friend says, listen, what you're doing is wrong. You can't do this, but you do it in a loving way. The word, the word, what's the one that's used? It's like, you know when a person is dying and it's their final advice, a will, they're gathered around their loved ones and they're giving this final advice, it's given out of love. So you're advising people out of love. You're saying it in a way that shows that you care. But when you advise people, when you give them advice, help them, what ends up happening? Not everyone agrees with you. Some people are upset. They get offended. So then what do you need? You need sabr after that. You need to be patient with people. You need to have a thick skin. And we all know, for example, that the lives of the prophets was all an example of representation of the surah. Rasulullah ﷺ, when he went to Ta'if, and we all know the story, he's going for وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. He's going to advise them about Islam because he cares about them. He wants them to know about the deen, and what they end up doing, they end up rejecting him, ridiculing him, emotionally abusing him, physically abusing him, hurting him, throwing stones at him, covered in bruises, bleeding, almost to the point of being unconscious. And Rasulullah ﷺ, after being kicked out of the town, rejected, angel comes down and says, Ya Rasulullah, to say the word. I'll pick up this entire town and I'll turn it upside down. I'll destroy this entire town. Now if you were in that situation, what would you have done? These people are so ungrateful. I went to them to help them and they just kicked me out of the town. They disrespected me. They dishonored me. How could they do that? Destroy them right away. Most of us would say, don't even think twice. Take care of them. I don't want to deal with them anymore. Rasulullah ﷺ raises his hands, and the Sahaba would say that, you know what, they see this scenario, they're thinking, this nation is done. Game over. The angel is about to destroy them, and the Rasulullah ﷺ making dua against them, there's no hope. And what did Rasulullah ﷺ say? Ya Allah, please guide the people of Ta'if. That you know what, if they don't accept the message, maybe one of their kids will. Maybe there's some hope. Ya Allah, guide them. Ya Allah, help them. This love, that's what the Rasul is sabr. Having patience with people when you try to advise them, when you try to help them. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be of those who understand the deeper lessons and messages of the surah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be of those who have iman and who do good deeds. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be of those who constantly advise each other to the truth, advise each other, and have the sabr and patience to continue advising one another. I just wanted to end with an action item. You wouldn't ever leave a loaded gun in your house. If you have kids especially, you wouldn't just leave it around. Yes, whatever the case may be, oh, what if I need self-defense, what if I do this? Well, you have a list of reasons, but you would never leave it on the counter. Why? Because God forbid the child gets a hold of it, it could kill the child. Similar thought process. How could you ever leave the internet unrestricted in your house? How can you give a phone unrestricted in your home, in your pocket? So one action item I would ask everyone to do, and I recommend, I have it myself and amongst my friends, is there in your phone, number one, so two things. You need to restrict what you can access, meaning content, and number two, you need to restrict accessibility, meaning timing. So there are apps that limit the time you can have on your phone. You should have that. There are apps that at 10 o'clock at night your Wi-Fi shuts off. And then 6 a.m., 7 a.m. your Wi-Fi turns on. Automatic. So that's about restricting timing. The second thing is restricting content. So for example, there are apps and products you can buy, it's well worth it, that block inappropriate websites from your Wi-Fi. Right? Purchase those products. Set up the things. On your phone, you can set up settings that block inappropriate content. It's under parental controls. So my question to you is, if you as an adult, you know when we have this discussion, they're thinking about parenting, oh yeah, I gotta block my kids. No, we're not talking about kids now. I'm talking about you, your phone. If you have the option to turn off access to inappropriate websites on your phone, why would you not turn that on? You know, I did this talk before, and somebody would say, yeah, but what if my phone might get slow a little bit, and what if I have to access the website? I'm like, what do you mean you have to access the website? Oh, you know what, I'm a medical professional, sometimes I might. Listen, there's no reason for you to have access to that. So for example, you go to your phone, you tell the phone that anything inappropriate to whatever the settings, block it, simple. And then you give your password to somebody else. You give it to your wife or your husband, you give it to a friend, you give it to a mentor, and say, listen, this is the password, you put the password, you have access to it. If for any reason I need to reset my phone or get a new one, I'll call you. Simple, done. Because what's the problem right now is, it's bad enough that it's there, it's available, but it's easily available. You wake up in the morning, again, back in the day, if you wanted to look at haram, you'd have to go and find it. You have to go to a physical building, or you would have to go get things. But now it's in your hands. You have to put barriers. So number one, limits. Number two is content restriction. That's one thing I would say is an action item. When you go home today, say, hey guys, we had breakfast club, family, Brother Maaz, you can blame it on me. Brother Maaz said I should have a restriction. Yeah. And they say, the kids are going to be upset, I'm sorry. Put the restriction. But restriction on yourself also. Right? Limit the time. So there's three things. One is restriction from your wireless internet. You can call and ask them to put restrictions. Second is restriction on your physical phone. So the phone filters anything haram and stops it. And the third is your Wi-Fi restrictions. All the 3 different avenues for not just haram content, but unproductive content. Things that will waste your time. Right? So put the restriction, and then inshallah look at how the difference will make in your life. Right? And so I'll end with that, and actually, I think that if you're started with any question, answers, feedback, comments, we can do that. Otherwise, we can do it while we're eating breakfast, inshallah.
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Any questions?
What are some filtering apps and all that?
So for the Wi-Fi, Disney, the company, what they do is they have a device that connects to your, so it's a physical device you connect it to your Wi-Fi. And what they do is they don't just block inappropriate content, even ads that are inappropriate or maybe not age appropriate, they put Disney ads instead. It's okay. I'm okay with the Disney ad coming up, right? But the point is there's some level of restriction involved. So Disney as one, it's called Circle. That's the name of the device. On your phone, if you have an Apple phone, you go to settings, you go to under parental controls, screen time. You have the option of not only limiting, so for example, you could say, okay, if I go more than 30 minutes of my social media app, I want you to stop me. And you have 2 options, to stop you and remind you, or to stop you and block you. There are some apps, and may Allah protect us, some of us will put the restriction, and when the restriction comes up, we'll put in the password to override the restriction. So if you're one of those, there are apps that you can't unblock. So once you reach your 1 hour, it's going to freeze the phone. It's going to turn it off. You can't do anything for at least another 5 hours or 4 hours. They even have boxes on Amazon. It's called a lockbox, phone lockbox. So you put it in the lockbox, you hit the button, it locks, and you can't open it again for, you set the time, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 8 hours. And some of us need that, anyway, like it's very scary. These companies and apps are hiring PhDs in psychology to manipulate your mind. They know exactly what's going to get you addicted. Just like street drugs, digital drugs. You're just like scrolling, it went from 1 minute and it's 3 hours. 3 hours went by. And in the context of Surah Asr, on the day of judgment, at the time of your death, every second in this life. A person who deals with palliative care is people who are end of life. And you'll notice that what are the most common regrets? People who are dying, what are their most common regrets? Usually it's time that they wasted. Top 5, time that they wasted, or relationships that they didn't keep whole. They never said to their parents, thank you, I love you. They never said to their kids, I'm really proud of you. Or they spend most of their time arguing with their spouse about little trivial things. They never ever took the time to say, you know what, you mean a lot to me. They wasted away with their relationships. Right? Or they spent their life worrying about what other people think. In the context for us, sometimes we don't want to bring up Islam, it's a little awkward, we don't give da'wah. But I guarantee you at the time of your death, man, I should have given da'wah. My friend, my coworker for 10 years, I never once said something about Islam to him. Now I'm worried on the day of judgment, am I going to be held accountable? And it doesn't have to be throw a pamphlet in their face. Just being an amazing person and mentioning that you're a Muslim. I'm going for Jama'ah, I'm praying. But the point is, these regrets, one of the biggest regrets is the time that you wasted. So these hours and days that you see on your phone, at the end of your life, you're going to realize how big and important they were. Okay, inshallah. So Jazakallah khair, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and our families from this big fitna. And inshallah, I encourage that, inshallah, maybe what we can do within the group is make groups. Right now, what I just said, an action item, pick 2, 3, 5 friends. You have a WhatsApp group, say, listen, starting today, we're going to do this. Or even right now at Breakfast Club, you give your phone to a friend of yours, put in the password. And they give their phone to you, you put in the password. Don't forget that password, because if you have to reset the phone, you're going to need it. But do that. Nothing should be stopping it. And inshallah, it will open the doors to a lot of khair. Right? It will open the doors to so much needed for our deen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك وأتوب إليك سبحان الذي رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير.